Shhugarman, Executive Director of Waterspirit. It is my great pleasure to welcome you to Joys of the Sea, Waterspirit's Gala fundraiser. Joys of the Sea looks different this year than it has in years past. We are gathered together in a Zoom room rather than by the seashore, as has happened so often during this most unusual year. However, I am grateful to be able to welcome community members from far and wide, with hearts joined together by our love for sacred water. A few housekeeping notes before we begin. Please make sure that your microphones are muted for the time being. This will improve the audio quality for everyone. Please also note that we are recording tonight's events. This video will be available on Waterspirit's YouTube channel for anyone who is not able to join us at this time tonight. We will begin tonight with an overview of Waterspirit, featuring voices from the Waterspirit community. Then we will have some fun answering trivia questions and winning prizes before welcoming this year's honoree and winner of the Suzanne Golas Award, Harriet Shugarman, author and executive director of the organization ClimateMama. After our Q&A with Harriet, we'll have a chance for some small group discussion before wrapping up our evening with a special closing prayer. You may already be aware that there is a parallel Joys of the Sea function happening even as we are gathered here tonight. Our silent auction is open for bidding until 11:59 p.m. tomorrow night. So you will still have a chance to bid on wonderful Jersey Shore experiences like an eco cruise with our very own Hugh Corolla, who you get to see later this evening. And you can bid on delicious food, beautiful artwork, including framed photographs by our program manager, Abby Koshak, and original watercolors by Emery Reardon, and more. And even Waterspirit gear, like this steel blue organic cotton Waterspirit shirt that I'm so happy to be sporting tonight. All of that and more can be accessed by clicking on the link that's just gone into the chat box. It's also on the Eventbrite page when you signed up, and it's available on Waterspirit's website. So at some point, make sure you have that link open and ready to go so that you can have your chance to win any of these amazing items and experiences. And all the money goes to a great cause. I would also like to take this moment to give a big thanks to our event sponsors, Anne-Marie and Bob Reardon, Michael Urio, Father Ed Cuba, and Bagel Station in Red Bank, New Jersey. We extend waves and waves of gratitude to you for helping to make this event possible. Thank you so much. Now, some of you might be here for the first time or might be returning after a while, so introductions might be in order. Let me tell you a little bit more about us. Waterspirit is a nonprofit center for spiritual ecology sponsored by the Sisters of St. Joseph of Peace. We are headquartered in Rumson, New Jersey, on unceded Lenni Lenape land. We offer our commitment to right our relationships with these lands and waters, and offer our respect for the Lenape people here in Lenapehoking and throughout the diaspora. Our nearest waters are the Navesink River, the Shrewsbury River, Sandy Hook Bay, and the Atlantic Ocean. Tonight, I'm pleased to be joined by our program manager, Abby Koshak, our public policy and justice organizer, Rachel Dawn Davis, our development coordinator, Sarah Thoma, and a number of our Waterspirit board members who you'll get to see and hear introduced as we go along throughout the evening. You make what we do possible together with our volunteers and collaborators. And all together, we in the Waterspirit community work to promote the personal and systemic transformations needed for a flourishing earth with clean, safe water for everyone. We do this because water is life. As we so often talk about in our climate anxiety groups, it's important to do inner work. It's important to take our feelings and to turn them into action. And it is also important to take time to celebrate. We have to savor the important moments, the delightful moments, the joyful moments, and infuse our collective struggles with this joy. This is long haul kind of work, and I am grateful to be doing it with all of you. So, taking our cues from this event's name, let's take a moment while I share my screen to turn our awareness to to the joys of the sea. Water reflects and invites reflection. The oceans can lift our moods and invite us into joy. As Thomas Berry says, the excitement of life is in the numinous experience wherein we are given to each other in that larger celebration of existence in which all things attain their highest expression. For the universe, by definition, is a single, gorgeous, celebratory event. Life began in the ocean. The seas sustain life on land by capturing carbon and producing the oxygen we breathe. Going down to the shore has a positive influence on human physical and mental health. These vastly biodiverse regions contain so much life that much of it still remains a mystery. Rachel Carson writes, "The sea is a place of mystery. One by one, the mysteries of yesterday have been solved, but the solution seems always to bring with it another, perhaps a deeper mystery." The group Religious on Water writes, "In reclaiming our primordial connection to the sea, we manifest our commitment to live out of our deepest desire. Put simply, we desire to live in right relationship with the Earth community, with the other members of our planetary family, both human and other than human. By learning again our place in the order of things, by acknowledging that this blue-green planet is the primary revelation of the divine, we affirm our oneness with the sacred waters of the world and the intricate web of life it supports. We commit ourselves to this place, our only home, and to the task of protecting water always and everywhere, favoring life in all its unfolding possibilities. In this spirit, Waterspirit was born." Suzanne Golas, a sister of St. Joseph of Peace, founded Waterspirit in 1998. Inspired by Thomas Berry's universe story and by her love of the Jersey Shore, she founded an organization dedicated to spirituality and ecology that is accessible to any person of any background who seeks to deepen their consciousness of the sacred interconnection of all life through the lens of water. For the first time this year, we are pleased to officially name our Gala Honoree Award in Suzanne's honor. Since 1998, Waterspirit has brought its programs and advocacy efforts to 40 states and 11 countries. We reach students and teachers, young and old, from the grassroots level to the United Nations. We help individuals transform their lives and personal connections to the earth through our seasonal rituals on the equinoxes and solstices, our weekly meditation for Earth, our book club, and our other educational programs. We address the spiritual side of the climate crisis through the support groups we offer people who are experiencing eco-anxiety and ecological grief, helping to transform that pain into collective action. Together, we take action for the earth in many different ways. We work in coalition to speak out against fracked gas pipelines and the fossil fuel industrial complex. We promote improvements in water quality in our local watershed and throughout the nation, as well as promoting easier and cleaner access to water for people of all income levels. Climate justice and environmental justice are our guiding lights. And currently, we are supporting students throughout New Jersey in our fight for a statewide green amendment, which would give our right to clean air and water the same level of protection as our right to free speech. And as always, you can keep up with all Waterspirit goings-on on our website, www.waterspirit.org. On that site, you can also sign up for our weekly emailed updates if you do not receive them already. And you can also find links to all of our social media accounts on that homepage. We are blessed to count on a community of people who know just how important water is and how important it is to take collective action on its behalf. Now, we will have the opportunity to hear from a few voices from the Waterspirit community with a brief video.
Greetings from the Jersey Shore, a few miles down the coast from Stella Maris, home to Waterspirit for so many years. I'm Sister Mary Bilderback, a Sister of Mercy, and a dear and longtime friend of Sister Suzanne Golas. We started out together over 25 years ago with a group of women religious congregations called ROW, Religious on Water, to educate our communities and the public about care for Earth, and especially Earth's precious waters. We worked at the United Nations and traipsed all over the globe, following the UN Earth Summits from Johannesburg to Rio, where we signed the Universal Declaration on the Rights of Mother Earth. And as members of the Earth Values Caucus, we spoke a language that sounded a little kooky to the UN crowd 25 years ago. But I'm grateful to say that the language of interdependence and sacredness of all beings has gone mainstream today. I'm grateful for the many joys of the sea galas over the years, sitting on the ocean front lawn of Stella Maris with friends who worked and cared for Earth's health and fullness, especially her life-sustaining waters. Today, I'm also grateful that the joyful work of Waterspirit, begun by Suzanne and the Sisters of St. Joseph of Peace, is being carried on in the capable, creative, and spirited hearts and hands of Blair and Amy and the other members of the Waterspirit crew I haven't met yet. Thank you. Every blessing on this Gala celebration.
Hi everyone, I'm Laura Schmidt.
And I'm Amy Lewis Rowe, and we're co-founders of the Good Grief Network, and we're here to tell you why we love Waterspirit.
There are so many reasons. The first reason is that we love your mission. We love the balance of ecology and spirituality that you bring into the world. We love the diverse array of programs that you offer, things like your book clubs, your support groups, your meditations. You bring in speakers from a diversity of backgrounds, and of course, your advocacy work.
And I love the absolute heart and integrity you bring to everything you do. We bow to you. We are honored to be partnered with you.
Thank you.
We love you, Waterspirit.
Hello, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Mary Jane Gala, and I'm a middle school teacher at Holy Cross Academy in Rumson, New Jersey. I want to take this opportunity to thank Waterspirit for protecting our waterways. Recently, Blair Nelson, director of the program of Waterspirit, that is, Zoomed with my students in order to introduce Pope Francis's presentation on Laudate Si. It is his cry that all individuals become stewards of God's creation. Ms. Nelson's presentation was a fantastic vessel to emphasize that the students need to be ecologically sound in order to protect vulnerable communities globally. They participated in discussion, and they had the opportunity to respond to reflective questions that were presented by Ms. Nelson. These questions will resonate with the students as they become activists in protecting our Earth. Once again, thank you, Ms. Nelson and the Waterspirit staff, for not only your work, but for your spirit as well.
Hi, my name is Arush Rampali, and I'm a sophomore at Morris Hills High School in New Jersey. Protecting water is important to me because it's something that all of us need, no matter our race, financial status, gender, sexuality, or location. There are people suffering all around the world because they don't have access to this resource, which is quite literally life-saving. With that in mind, I think it's more important than ever to protect our water, to which we have such easy and immediate access because it's a luxury that others are dying to have. In my school's choir, we're singing this piece composed by Vito. It's called Famine Song, and I'd like to close by reading some of the lyrics for you now. Ease my spirit, ease my soul. Please free my hands from this barren soil. Ease my mother, ease my child. Earth and sky be reconciled. Rain, rain, rain. Rain, rain, rain. I'm not going to explain those words to you. It's not my place to do so. But whatever you heard, whatever you felt, I urge you to take up this calling, because this is not someone else's struggle. This is a human struggle. We are the villains of this story, and we are the victims. But we can also be the heroes. It's in every one of our hands. Or 60% of our hands, to be exact. Thank you.
Waterspirit provides a service that we don't always know we even thirst for. Protecting not just the waters of the earth, but also our awareness of the sacredness of water. When I was first entering the Sisters of Peace, there were some who would call me that earth girl, which of course I was, and we all are and always will be. Back in those days, one of the things that drew Suzanne Golas and me together in friendship was our love of water. Of course, for her, it was the Atlantic Ocean. For me, it was the streams and rivers and Finger Lakes of upstate New York, and the forests and hills surrounding them, of course. As Suzanne was mulling over her plans for this new Waterspirit ministry, she taught me what she had been learning about watersheds. Well, I was hooked and continued my own journey into earth literacy, which has become a lifelong passion. Waterspirit's entry point to that common human passion is water. Pure, clean water has been used for eons in religious rituals to connote healing and cleansing, even the presence of the sacred. Of course, now we recognize water as a universal human right. The prophet Isaiah, speaking on God's behalf, uses the water cycle, which would have been very familiar to Isaiah's audience, to explain God's word, God's very presence. Isaiah says the rain and snow that come down from the heavens don't return there without doing their job. They water the land. They enable the plants to grow and mature and bear seed and fruit, which in turn feed all the creatures of the world. The water present in all those different forms is the very water that Waterspirit celebrates and protects and uplifts as sacred. So thank you, Blair, and all the Waterspirit team for helping all of us to continue growing in our appreciation of water. Blessings to all of you.
I'm Anne Marie Reardon, and I'm one of the advisory board members on Waterspirit. And I know many familiar faces out there, but not all of you. And I'm very happy to see you now and hopefully meet you in person at some point in the future. I'd like to thank all the video participants for their very heartfelt and beautiful expressions in that testimonial presentation. I thought it was beautifully bookended by people who were there at the creation, so to speak, and also by the youth themselves or teachers thereof, and the hopes for the future and why we care at all about the environment going forward. We are just about to embark on our fun water trivia quiz. And before we do, just a reminder that the auction is ongoing. And if you'd like to participate, it's open through tomorrow. and links can be found both at the Eventbrite page that you got in on, or the Waterspirit website, or in the chat box. There's a link in there. And then we'll show that again at the end of this evening's programs. So our water quiz, which will be moderated by another board member, Richard Bissub, who we're happy to have with us this evening. And Rich has been on the Waterspirit board for over 18 years now. And his career in the environmental field has spanned greater than 42 years. His focus in that field has been on water resources. For the last 22 years, he worked for the Pinelands Preservation Alliance as their director for water programs, and very recently retired. And we are so happy to have Rich with us on the board because he's such a great asset. So with no further ado, Rich, I will let you carry on with the trivia quiz.
Okay. Thank you, Anne Marie.
Oh, you know, sorry, I forgot to explain how you're going to do this, folks. If you when Rich gives the question, if you have an answer, type it into your chat box, and there will be a winner for every question. So whoever gets the correct answer first, we'll keep a record, and then we'll be in touch with you later via email, and you can select either a Waterspirit tote bag or a Waterspirit water bottle as your prize. Okay, now you can take it away.
Okay, thank you, Anne Marie. We have 20 questions. You know, it's quite a mix. Some of them are related to streams, some are on various species, but it's a good mix, and some of them are pretty tricky. Just one disclaimer: if I ask or say a few things, or I'm having a hard time hearing, it's because I am. I'm losing my hearing. And two, my neighbor and his son, about 15 minutes ago, decided they were going to work on their lawn with their leaf blower and weed whacker. So you may be hearing that too. But anyway, with the questions, let's get right into it. So the way this will work, I'll ask the question, I'll go over it twice, I'll repeat myself, and then we'll take it from there. Okay, so the first question is, there are 9 endangered mammal species of animals on the New Jersey Threatened and Endangered Species list. Which one is the largest? So again, 9 endangered mammal species on the New Jersey Threatened and Endangered Species list. Which one is the largest? I don't see anything yet.
Remember to type your answers into the chat, folks. First person to type their answer into the chat, first person to type the correct answer into the chat wins a prize.
Not yet. Keep going.
Okay, I'll give you a hint. The first word is blue.
And that
There you go.
was it. Woohoo! The correct answer
Okay.
is whale.
All right, moving on. Question number 2. In 2005, a whale swam up the Delaware River as far as Trenton. What species was it? Again, 2005, whale swam up the Delaware River as far as Trenton. And what species was it? And I remember this. This was quite a sensation in the press.
Not yet.
We need some background music like on Jeopardy, you know? All right.
May as well just start listing the kinds of whales you know, folks. Maybe.
Yeah, good guess.
The first letter is B, as in
There's
boy.
a song that goes with this animal.
Should I?
I have a Kay and Gloria who somehow it came to me privately, says white whale.
There it is. Angela,
There we go.
beluga whale.
All right. Question number 3. Which town used to be known as the lobster capital of New Jersey, where the large number of lobsters landed there? Again, which town used to be known as the lobster capital of New Jersey? Well, I'll give you a hint. It's in Ocean County. Whoa.
Kay and Gloria. Yes.
Who said Point Pleasant?
I think Kay and Gloria said it first.
No, it actually
Was it Sue Smith? Never mind.
Smith.
Sue Smith, you're the winner.
Yeah, it was Point Pleasant. And that makes sense. You know, there's a lot of good seafood restaurants along the river there, and known for their lobsters. Okay, question 4. This one's a little tricky. So it's a number, and I'd be really impressed if somebody hit it exactly. Here we go. How many total stream miles does New Jersey have? How many stream miles, total stream miles, does New Jersey have? It's quite a big number. That's a little bit too big. Ooh. Now we're just throwing numbers at the board now.
Eleanor was pretty close.
Yeah, whoever said 20,000, that was pretty
20,000.
close.
We're going to call that one for Eleanor Swanson. Rich,
Yeah,
what's the exact answer?
The number is actually 23,500. And that's quite a bit, you know, for a small state. And the only thing I should say too is that, you know, a lot of these streams are really small. They're known as first and second order stream. So, you know, these are the streams that are, quote, most of the people think of them as insignificant, but they make up 75% of stream miles in New Jersey. And these are the ones that we typically abuse by putting them in pipes and box culverts. And they're usually in the headwater areas. Okay, question 5. What documentation does one need to have in order to legally operate a power boat on New Jersey waters? Again, what documentation does one need to have in order to legally operate a power boat on New Jersey waters? That one's part of the answer.
We'll take it. We'll take Kay
Yeah.
as the winners to that one. And what's the other part of it then, Rich?
Well, it's a state issued safe boating certificate and or a boat endorsement on one's driver's license. And in New Jersey, the motorboat operating license and your driver's license is connected. So if you are goofing off on a river or a stream in a boat and you get pulled over by the state troopers because they monitor the waters, you can lose your driver's license for your car as well. So if you're partying it up on a lake and you have one too many beers and you get pulled over by the state troopers, you're going to lose your driver's license for your car as well. Little trivia. What is the age at which a fishing license is required in New Jersey? Again, what is the age at which a fishing license is required in New Jersey? Yeah. Oop. There we go.
Fab.
It's 14 years old. All right, here we go. Question 7. In what municipality does the source of the Passaic River lie? In what municipality does the source of the Passaic River lie? We got to keep going, folks.
It starts with an M.
No, but getting closer.
Maureen's was so close.
Well, I think we'll go with Morristown, but the real answer is Morris Township.
All right, that one goes to Maureen Donahue.
All right, here we go. This is one of the trickier ones, I think. How many of New Jersey's watersheds share land in other states? Again, how many of New Jersey's watersheds share land in other states? Oh.
Right off the bat, that one went to Pat Richter.
Whoever said 4, that's the number. And it's the Hudson, the Hackensack, Passaic, and the Delaware River watersheds. But the number's 4. Okay, question number 9. What drink best describes the typical color of the Mullica River and its tributaries in the Pinelands? Again, what drink best describes the typical color of the Mullica River and its tributaries in the Pinelands? Yeah, that was pretty. There we go. Up T. Whoever said T.
All right.
Yeah, that's because of the natural dyes coming out of the roots from vegetation along the streams, and also iron oxide, rust color coming out of the sands. Question number 10. What was the name of the shipyard on the Hackensack River that built hundreds of vessels that saw service in World War II? Okay, again, what was the name of the shipyard on the Hackensack River that built hundreds of vessels that saw service in World War II? So for you history buffs, no. It's a pretty long name. String of names, actually. All right, first letter, first word is federal. I think we're going to need to move on. All right, it's Federal Shipbuilding and Dry Dock Company in Kearney. Question 11. What is the name of New Jersey's official tall ship? Again, what is the name of New Jersey's official tall ship? Starts with an A. There you go. That's it.
Joseph got it.
The A.J. Mearwall, 2-mast Delaware Bay oyster schooner. And as far as I know, it's still used to this day for educational purposes. You know, they take kids out on it and run various programs. All right. Speaking of schooners, what was the name of the beached ship that for many years was a tourist destination in Beach Haven? Again, what was the name of the beached ship that for many years was a tourist destination in Beach Haven? That's it.
Angela, nice job.
All right. Next question. What are the 2 waterways, one river one brook that begins in northern New Jersey and flows north into New Jersey and eventually into the Hudson River? Again, what are the two waterways, one river, one brook, that begins in northern New Jersey and flows north into New York and eventually into the Hudson River? No, one of them has a national wildlife refuge associated with it. Much further to the west, actually, in New Jersey. No takers, huh? I think we'll move on. It was actually, it is the Wallkill River with headwaters at Lake Mohawk in Sparta, and the Sparkill Brook with headwaters on the western slope of the Palisades in Alpine. Okay, question 14. In what municipality is the head of tide, or at the end of the tidal influence of the Reardon River located? Again, in what municipality is the head of tide of the Reardon River located? All right. The first word is south. Yeah.
We got it, but it went by direct message to me by accident. Southbound Brook, that's Kay and Gloria again.
That's it. All right, question 15. We know that Lake of Patcon in New Jersey is New Jersey's largest natural lake. What is the second largest? Again, we know that Lake of Patcon in New Jersey is New Jersey's largest natural lake. What is the second? No.
Wood is in the name.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, the hint, it's in Sussex County. I'll give you even the town. It's in Newton. Okay, I think we're gonna have to move on. It's actually Swartzwood Lake in Newton. All right, now question number 16 is related to various organizations. All right, so just keep that in mind. It's a string of organizations. So the question is, the Hudson River Keeper, the Delaware River Keeper, New York, New Jersey Bay Keeper, Hackensack River Keeper, Reardon River Keeper, and the Great Swamp Watershed Association, which is an affiliate, all belong to what international organization? Again, Hudson River Keeper, Delaware River Keeper, New York, New Jersey Bay Keeper, Hackensack River Keeper, Reardon River Keeper, and the Great Swamp Watershed Association all belong to what international organization?
Joe Reynolds got it. It's Waterkeeper Alliance. Well done, Joe.
All right. The next question, let me just say a little bit about this one. You know, in New Jersey, naturally, and elsewhere, there's watersheds. In New Jersey, as part of a management structure, the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection has clustered some of these watersheds together into management areas just for policy purposes and staffing. All right, so just with that in mind, how many watershed management areas does New Jersey have? How many watershed management areas does New Jersey have? Oh, somebody was close. Who said 22?
That was Joe Reynolds again.
Yeah, well, it's actually 20. But since that's the closest that we've seen, we'll go with that. And my dogs are getting restless because it's time to eat. So you might be hearing them in the background. All right, question 18. The water supply of most South Jersey residents is drawn from a massive underground aquifer. What is the name of the aquifer? Again, the water supply of most South Jersey residents is drawn from a massive underground aquifer. What is the name of the aquifer? There's actually a town named after it in South Jersey. About 100 miles off. No. No. Starts with a C.
Just start guessing all the towns you know that start with C.
People are trying to, people are on their phone. Oh, there we go. Yeah, okay.
Go again.
The Cohansey Aquifer, big winner over there.
Yeah, you'll sometimes hear this as a Kirkwood Cohansey, because as far as underground aquifer system, they usually combine the two together. Okay. Question 19. What was the name of the canal that connected Phillipsburg on the Delaware River with Jersey City on the Hudson River and was decommissioned in 1926? What was the name of the canal that connected Phillipsburg on the Delaware River with Jersey City on the Hudson River and was decommissioned in 1926? Yep, that's it. Yeah, and actually in Newark, when they decommissioned the canal and they drained it, that became part of Newark's subway system. They used it. All right, so we're down to the last question. And here we go. Unlike the Hackensack River, the remaining wetlands of which are located near its mouth and are known as the Meadowlands, the remaining wetlands of the Passaic River, 4 tracts in all, are located much closer to its headwaters. What are they? Again, unlike the Hackensack River, the remaining wetlands of which are located near its mouth and are known as the Meadowlands, the remaining wetlands of the Passaic River, 4 tracts in all, are located much closer to its headwaters. What are they?
We got one already, Maureen Donahue with Great Swamp. That is one of them. We got 3 more, folks.
Okay, let's see. What kind of hit can we give here? One is pretty close to, and might actually, I'm not sure of the geography, but one might be in Parsippany, or close to it anyway, in that area. Okay, it's Troy Meadows. The other one starts with an H. Hatfield Swamp. And the last one is, any takers? Great Peace Meadows. And that brings the trivia part of the program to a close. So everyone, thank you very much for participating. So how many winners do we have all total? Is that easy to find?
It'll take me a second to tally it up here. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I count 11, nope, 10 winners. So congratulations to our 10 winners. You'll be getting emails afterwards to get you your prizes.
Okay, so let me introduce you, Corolla, my colleague on the advisory board, who is going to introduce tonight's honoree. Thank you for everyone for participating.
And thank you, Rich, for doing a great job. My apologies to some of you folks. And the questions were, I think I put together most of them, and I might have gone a little bit too esoteric for some of you. So again, my sincerest apologies. Before I introduce our awardee, let me just mention that she will be taking questions after her remarks. So as she's speaking, if you are moved to ask a question, please put it in the chat, and I will moderate those questions after her remarks. Okay. Okay, so I have been very privileged to be a member of Hackensack Riverkeeper, a staff member of Hackensack Riverkeeper since I started as a volunteer in 1999 and came on staff in 2001. So this is my 20 years of service in the environmental field. Rich has me by about double that. Long may I live to make it to that and then some. But in those years that I've been working, I have been also privileged, in addition to working with great people within the Waterkeeper Alliance, but I've gotten to meet and work with a number of incredibly talented and dedicated and passionate people. People who literally are writing the book as we speak on environmental activism, on environmental advocacy, and on simply just being a kind of person who is not just an environmentalist, but somebody who takes everything to heart and understands that, especially now, with all of the issues and all of the problems and all of the threats to our water, our air, our land, our wildlife, those are threats to our very existence itself. Now, certainly, as one friend of mine said many years ago, figure out what ticks you off the most, and that is the thing to focus on. For me, it's clean water, wetlands, wildlife. But again, as I've been involved in this movement, and I want to thank Sister Suzanne for inviting me to be a member of the board of Waterspirit close to 10 years ago. In all the time that I've been working and sharing and learning from so many wonderful people, it's obviously clear to me now that there is one overarching threat that we all ignore at our peril. And that, of course, is the threat of climate change, the change that is happening, and the various threats that are branching off of global warming, everything from sea level rise to desertification to changes in all descriptions to our arable lands, our forests. It goes without saying. And so several years ago, Hackensack Riverkeeper got more and more involved with regional efforts to combat climate change, specifically focusing on efforts in our local watershed region, things that we could do, ways that we could affect positive change, in where we live and work. And one of the things we got involved in is the coalition to ban unsafe oil trains. And basically, this is a movement to stop the movement of volatile, dangerous Bakken crude oil. This is crude oil that is fracked, literally fracked, from North Dakota oil fields. And this is the same oil that exploded several years ago in the town of Lac-Mégantic, Quebec, and killed 47 people. The same volatile oil is traveling through Canadian and American counties and municipalities on a daily basis. And so getting involved with this effort brought us into, I'm saying a lot, I apologize. Brought us into working with a number of groups. The coalition itself, members of the Sierra Club, the Franciscan Response to Fracking, the Hudson Bike Walk Coalition, and an interesting sounding group called ClimateMama. And I thought, wow, that's a cool name, ClimateMama. That's really cool. Like, so when you hear a name that makes you think, you want to find out a little bit more about who's involved in this and who started this and what are they all about. And that's where I learned the name of Harriet Sugarman. And Harriet, for a few years, was one of those people that I knew about, and I'd see her name and I'd read what she'd written, and obviously somebody like definitely has the heart of a lion, the heart of a champion. And but it wasn't until I finally got to meet her face to face and listen to her speak at Fairleigh Dickinson University at a climate summit. And to hear her speak was to hear somebody who has the rare ability to take, on some levels, very deep scientific knowledge, policy, and like I said, science and policy, and a lot of what many of us would say would be wonky talk, but to distill that down and to make it more apprehendable and understandable to the average person. I do not mean by any stretch, I'm not talking about dumbing down, I'm not talking about diluting the message, far from it. But it's making the message understandable to a wider range of people. And that, my brothers and sisters, as I think we all know, is what we have to do. Make what we already know in our heart and in our minds accessible to everyone we meet. And so when we sat down to decide who amongst the environmental community was deserving of being named the first recipient of the Suzanne Golas Award, obviously, names went around the table and we discussed them, but one name just came to the forefront from many of us, and that was the name of our honoree tonight, Ms. Harriet Sugarman. And so, my dear brothers and sisters, it is my distinct honor and pleasure to introduce to you our sister in struggle, Harriet Sugarman.
Thank you. Thank you so much for those kind words, Hugh. Thank you all for this incredible honor. And I am so truly touched and just overwhelmed by it. I really thank you all so much and for being here this evening and for honoring me in this special way. This is a room full of activists and hard workers and caring people. That is all of you. And we do it because we recognize what's at stake and what the future is if we don't, and we envision the future we want, and we do what we can to change that. And we do it because we know we need to. And but when we are recognized or called out for it, that also those taps on the back, those kind words are very meaningful. So thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it, Blair, Hugh, and to have the honor for this first award in the name of Sister Suzanne. It's very special as well. So I am going to spend a few minutes talking about my book, about how we talk about the climate crisis. I have some slides, so I'm going to actually pull them up now. And then I look forward to answering questions and seeing where it goes to. I have been having some trouble, Blair, with switching the slides, so I'm going to put it on the full screen, but let me know if you don't see the second screen, and then we'll just go through them like this. So let me share first. Can you see the second screen? Awesome, it works. Okay, well, again, the honor is a great one, but extra special to have an organization like Waterspirit, something that draws us all together, that we cannot live without, that many of us have our heart vision, something I've learned about from people like Laura and Amy, but what is it that tugs at our heartstrings, that brings memories, that we create our memories around? And one of my most sacred places is a place in Western Canada. I am originally from Alberta, Canada. My family is still there, and every summer my whole life I have visited Pigeon Lake. These are not pigeons, they're actually pelicans. Believe it or not, pelicans from the Gulf of Mexico travel up to northern Alberta every year, and it's magical. And this is a sunset that I took from the front of my parents' cottage. The sun stays up in the sky, as you can imagine, in northern Alberta until midnight and beyond, and never really gets dark. I'm usually there in July. Last summer was the first July I missed, but watching the water and watching the weather come over the water and the waves and the storms and the calmness and the peace, water is central to all of us. So I think there's all of us can find a place to be centered there. So again, Waterspirit and the work that you do is critical and so important, and draws so many of us from so many different places and spaces together, and is a unifying theme and a unifying just that touch point, that heart point. So I wanted to share my special place with you before I begin talking about my book, but and I will do that. But I wanted to start talking to you with this photograph. We just celebrated Earth Day. This event is part of celebrating our planet Earth. And this is an iconic photograph. Many of you probably have seen it. It actually even has a name. It's called Earthrise. It was taken by the Apollo mission, Apollo 8. It was the first time that one of those Apollo missions left our near Earth orbit. And the astronauts look back and they saw the Earthrise. It's called Earthrise. And it was a time in an odd way to what we're experiencing with this year of COVID, where we've become focused on out through the noise, right? On what's happening globally, and it's impacting all of us. And this was a time before the internet, before so many frenetic things that pre-COVID occupied us and pulled us in different directions. And the world was watching, and the world saw this photograph, and it changed us. It was the first time, and as you well know, as Waterspirit, connect people who love the water and all its sacredness. We're the blue planet. When you look back at the planet, even from outer space, that is what you see, is our water that connects us all. And within 2 years of this photograph, we had the first Earth Day was formed. With the Environmental Protection Agency was established in our country, and we had the first Clean Air Act and Clean Water Act. And that was recognizing the fragility of our planet, how special it is, but yet this is our home and we need to take care of it. So our motto at ClimateMama, and this is something I talk about in the book, and probably something maybe you learned from your parents or you've taught your kids or speak to your grandchildren about, but it's very simple, that we need to tell the truth, that actions speak louder than words, and not to be afraid. And, you know, it may sound simple, but to tell the truth about the climate crisis that we face, the climate emergency that we're in, is not only complicated, but it's tragic. And so, and I will talk about that in a minute as well too, but in telling the truth to our children, whichever age they are at, even our very young children, we need to tell the truth. And you know, it needs to be age appropriate, of course, but we need to be honest, and we adjust our answers according to their ages. But we also need to understand where the information is coming from, and we need to trust in science. And we've seen how science has been thrown out the window, and we can't allow that, because what scientists are telling us is that we are in an emergency. Of course, our planet's been warmer at different times in its past. It's over, you know, it's 4 billion years old, and it's been warmer, and we've had no ice, and sea level has been higher, and all of the things that we know are the impacts of the climate crisis. But what's never happened in the lifetime of a human, in the blink of an eye, is what we have done. And that's actually awe-inspiring in a way, that we as a singular species are now the most powerful forcing agents on the planet. We have put our planet out of balance. She is not in balance any longer, and that is on us. And that is what science tells us, and that is a message we can convey in different ways. And also with that message comes how bad it is, actually, that we are close to that cliff or points of of where we're going to have feedback loops. We're going to change things that we can't come back from. And yet we're still being told that it's in our power as individuals. You know, we can do things that will change it. Well, the power of the individual versus the power of the collective. The problems are so great that we need those that can go big to take giant leaps. But it doesn't mean that we're off the hook or that the rest of us aren't doing things. We do what we can. And that changes minds, and that helps our children see that we're walking the walk that we're talking about. And we don't know who we're going to influence or who we're going to connect with that will be able to take that giant leap. But, you know, to continue to have it put, you know, on our shoulders, as happened in the past, and I write about this in the book as well. You know, our Keep America Beautiful campaign was actually started and still has on its board some, you know, of the biggest bottling companies, the biggest packaging companies in our country. And they, you know, it happened in the 60s where all of a sudden plastics and packaging could provide products to us really cheaply. But they created a mess. And to clean up that mess required expense that those companies didn't want to incur. They wanted to pollute. They wanted to create that mess and give us something, a single-use product, and then tell us it was our responsibility to get rid of it. Well, we've seen what that's done to our planet, but that was something that we teach our children too, right? We need to clean up our messes. So just as we ask our children to do that, we must demand that our air and our oceans and our waterways can't be treated as open sewers. We have some rules about that, but they keep getting pushed. We know our stream rules get pushed in the state of New Jersey and around the country, but we need to not treat our air as an open sewer as well. So tell the truth, and then actions speak louder than words. Well, first, we need to take care of ourselves. And Waterspirit is doing such a good job by bringing in special people like the Good Grief Network with Amy and Laura to actually come to terms with what we know is happening, right? Because again, as I said, it's overwhelming. So when we come to terms with the science and the reality, and then allow ourselves and our children to feel grief and to be angry, because we should be angry at where we're at. It's terribly sad with where we're at, but we can't get stuck there. And so we need the kinds of opportunities that Waterspirit is providing to be able to work through that. We need to be able to allow our children to tell us those things if that is what they're feeling, and not tell them there's something the matter with them. Because those are normal emotions. That is normal to feel that way. But then how do we pass through that? How do we pass through that so that then we can build our hope? And it's not just hope in a vacuum, it's active hope, because we are doing things and we know that others are doing things, and we are resolved to do what needs to get done because we have envisioned that future. And we know that we need to take steps to get there. And for me, that future revolves around my children. And my children are in college now, they're young adults. And if what science tells us is happening in the worst case scenario, if we don't do anything, their future is a tragedy. And I refuse to believe that, because they also tell us that while that door is spring-loaded, we can stop it. We can slow down our climate emergency, and we can create a future where our children not only survive, but they thrive. And I see my children when they're my age. I see them with someone they love, who loves them as much as I do. I see them in a job that fulfills them and that they find happiness with. I see them with healthy food, with clean water and clean air. And I see that. And that's a long ways down the road. But how are we going to get there? So it's finding ways. You know, we see our country setting goals in 2050. Well, now, 2 days ago, we saw our president set a 2030 goal. We need to set those goals, and we as the grassroots, we as all of the organizations here, we as individuals need to push forward so we meet those long-term goals by setting short-term ones that we will pass through. And in this divided time of our very partisan and divided country, who are our trusted messengers? Well, I would say to you that in many cases, there are children, because we will listen to our children, and our neighbors who may not listen to us may hear and listen to their children in a way that, again, they're not seeing or paying attention to. And this is a quote I put in my book, and it's was from the Secretary General of OPEC, of the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. And they were feeling this pressure from their children, asking them, what are they doing about the climate crisis? And well, I have worked in this space for more than now up on 30 years. So I'm meeting you there, Richard, on our that long-term time working on the climate crisis. And I have seen young people and their voices be heard. But I think that as our planet is reaching points where she is reaching points of no return, that our children are seeing that and witnessing that we are hearing our children in a way that we didn't hear them before. And that is really powerful. And so is the importance of intergenerational action, because it doesn't just rest on their shoulders. And I think that they are hearing that in some ways too. Those activist children our children are at different stages. Some are really just aren't sure, haven't heard a lot, but to imagine that our children aren't learning or knowing about the climate crisis, that is also, we can't protect them from that. They're seeing it around them. They have family that has escaped forest fires on the West, in California or Oregon. They're seeing droughts in our state. They're experiencing it. So again, we can't protect them from that. And some of them are farther along than others. And some of them are out taking to the streets. And we're hearing that. And we're hearing that. And we need to work with our children, listen to our children, because they may have ideas and ways forward that we haven't thought about, or that maybe we thought about but didn't work before, but may work now. So that intergenerational work, and I know that's something that Rachel's working on with Waterspirit, it's critical, and that it's very important. So I, say thank you for doing that hard work. And it's rewarding work too, when we get to work together with across generations. This is a quote also from my book, and I wrote the book came out in May of 2020, right as we were, in the midst of COVID. But I wrote it. I finished writing it. It was finished being edited in January of 2020. So we hadn't entered COVID yet, or we had, but maybe we didn't know it yet. The terrible racist murders of so many people, has been happening for decades and centuries, but in our face was the explosion over the George Floyd murder. And I think we can use, this quote to talk about COVID, to talk about racism. And I think that we can look at what's happened this last year, and our children are living this year. They will remember what happened this year, because it will be a seminal moment in our lives, right? We are going to get through this crisis, but our climate crisis will be with us forever. So to remind our children how we came together to protect our grandparents. We didn't see them, but we did that so that we could keep them safe. We sewed masks together so that we could protect one another. We brought food to our first responders. All of the things that we did in the COVID crisis. We marched in the streets over injustice. And we can use those moments to remind our children, as we live with the climate crisis, that we did hard things. We can do hard things, and we can see the results of those hard things. So, pulling it together, right? Telling the truth, actions speak louder than words, and not being afraid. Well, that is a whole other story, right? When we know what we know and we know how heavy some of those things are, but we also, if we remind our children and ourselves too, throughout our, we may do something as our career, as our job, but we have passion, and maybe that gives us passion, and that's what we're doing. And I know that many of us in this room have found a way to combine those things, but it may be, that we're passionate in some other way. And if we look at the climate crisis and use our passion on the climate crisis, remind our children, do they love music? Do they love acting? Do they love dance? Do they want to be a teacher? Whatever it is, if we address the climate crisis through our passions, we can all be part of the solutions, and we need everyone. And the problems are huge, but the opportunities, so to turn it around, right? The opportunities that the climate crisis presents, we are alive now at this moment where what we do really makes a difference. And, in the course of our long lives, that may be the instance all the time, but knowing and living the climate crisis and the importance of these next few years in what we do has never been more palatable. And we can help our children see that too. And that is an opportunity. That is a way that we can work together, that we can come together, and we can plant those seeds of that future we envision for our children, and then show them really how we can do those. So the idea and the concept of self-efficacy, of our children seeing other children taking action. So even if they're too young to vote, our very young children can do things, and we can help them see that what they did made a difference. So whether that's planting a garden literally and watching something grow, cleaning up a city block and doing a community garden, whether that's writing a letter to the mayor of their town and going with you to the post box and putting it in, and knowing that you help them send that. Or maybe they can't write, so they drew a picture and it was about what they cared about, and you had this conversation with them. That's very, very powerful. And so I think that we really see our children waking up to this, and we need to be able to explain what's happening to them. And I know, again, many of you in the room tonight are well educated on the causes of what's happening, but in my book I have a chapter about the science and the politics that gets in the way, and that's important so that we can help our children understand the realities too, because many of them are so scared, but they're hearing bits and pieces, and we need to tell them, yes, it's bad. That's what scientists tell us, right? Yes, we're causing this to happen. It's bad. It's really bad, but and it's getting worse. But there are things that we can do about it, and we can slow it down, and we can all be part of that. And so we need to show our children and help them understand that. And then I just want to share with you pictures of my children. I've been using this slide in lots of talks that I give, but I know for those of us that have been working in this space for a long time, time flies, right? It goes by so quickly. And in 2018, which I think was when many of our young people who are anxious and active and taking to the streets on the climate crisis, heard about the climate crisis through the International Panel on Climate Change, the report to governments that came out. And at that time, it was a consensus among scientists that by 2030, we're going to pass tipping points. We're going to pass points of no return if we don't do anything, if we don't slow down our emissions. And 12 years to my children at that point seemed like a long time. I look at them today and it went by like that, but they were only in grade school, and now they're in graduate school and starting my daughter Alana is graduating college in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So the time goes, yes, it's wonderful, but it goes fast. So while we have time, we don't have a lot of time. And so we need to remind those that can go big that they must. We need to find a way to help our children through that grief to that positive action, and for ourselves too. And we need to find community, as you have created here with Waterspirit, that when we are feeling sad or down, that's okay. And we have people that will cry with us. And then we have people that will laugh with us. And they'll have people that will lift us up and hold us in their arms. And I think to remind ourselves and our children that this movement has grown so much. There are so many more people involved in it, working on it. If you listen to any of the, had time over the last few days to the Leaders Summit, yes, it was a lot of talk and it was for show, but real targets were set. And it was all about the climate crisis. And yes, it's our job to make sure we push and make those things happen. But it feels to me truly like we have entered this great turning. The work of Joanna Macy that talks about we have reached this moment where, and I think we are at that moment now. 2020 moved us into it, and now we are there. And I truly feel hopeful and with active hope that through the work of all of us and the arms of many, we will slow down our climate crisis so all of our children not only survive, but they thrive. So I'm going to stop sharing there. And thank you. And I'm happy to answer any questions and chat some more.
Well, thank you so much, Harriet. Thank you for everything you do, and thank you for your words of wisdom this evening. I will use my prerogative and ask the first question. Was there any one incident or one thing or one person or one something that inspired you to begin this chapter of your life in this vocation?
Yeah, it's a good question, Hugh. And I think that, I think for me anyways, it's been an evolution, but doing the climate reality training, which is an actually we have a training happening right now tonight as we speak, but I worked on climate in the early days in the late 90s and the early 2000s. And then Al Gore founded this organization called the Climate Reality Project. And I was in one of his first training programs after his film came out in 2006. And he did a series of trainings the next year. And at that point, they were very small. There were 100 of us. We went to Nashville and we did this training, but it was my aha moment that, yeah, I need to do something. And we were, told to go home into our communities and find a way to share what was happening in our communities, be that trusted messenger. And it took me a couple of years to realize for me, that was going to be in the space, in the parent space. I had these 2 young children and I couldn't find online or in my community the words and the information that then I could convey to my children or to the other parents around me that, the house is on fire. And so it helped me be empowered to create ClimateMama. And at that time, we were the first parent group online that was focused completely on the climate crisis. There are many more. I'm working actually with an organization called Our Kids, it's a coalition actually called Our Kids Climate, where we bring together parent groups from around the world. And it's heartwarming and amazing to see how caregivers and parents have woken up to the voices of their children. So that I think is what has moved me to jump in with both feet. And now I get to meet amazing people and speak to in wonderful groups like this one about my passion and about what we can do together.
Yeah, that's what I love too about what the work that we do, like, cooperatively. You do get to meet, we all get to meet such incredible people. It's just a joy and a strength giving for all of us. One question someone wants to know, could we see the award that you received? That's okay.
Yes, it was sitting there all the time, but you just missed it. It's beautiful. Thank you so much. Can you see it?
Oh yes, see it very fine.
So thank you. It's beautiful and very special. And we see that Earth in all her glory there, not just in Earthrise, and all the beautiful blue and the water. And yeah, thank you.
You're very, very welcome. Okay, we have a few more moments here. Does anybody have any questions? We're a little ahead of schedule, which is nice, you know. How about, I bet you Blair has.
Don't put Blair on the spot.
Oh, we're on the spot,
you-
but you know, Blair is somebody who's definitely another sharp person who is just wonderful to work with and to share this wonderful ongoing mission with. Well, I guess the only thing I would also ask is that, so I get the impression, I get more than an impression. It's clear to me that despite everything that we've lived through and seen and gone through, that that you have an optimism, you know. I think that was very clear when you talk about your children. You know, I think of my own kids as well, and now my granddaughter. And, you know, I think sometimes you have to be optimistic or else you're going to be like, oh, you know, just curl up in a fetal position. So if you could say one or two things about what drives your optimism, and, you know, just where do you just share that, if you would be so kind.
Sure, Hugh. And, you know, I think that there are things that drive us to move to action. And for some people are optimistic like I am, and others have decided there's no hope, and that's what moves them forward. And so, and not to judge one way or another as the way forward. For me, it is that act of hope that I see so many people from in corporations, in government, in organizations, in faith-based work that are working together, that recognize the peril of our planet and are moving forward. And in that first, you know, telling the truth and trusting in science, I have had the opportunity to meet many amazing climate scientists. I teach climate change in society at Ramapo College here in New Jersey. I have to do a lot of work and research to prepare my students. And the scientists that work on the climate crisis, while they do say it's bad and it's getting worse, I mean, it's terrible, they say we can still turn things around. It won't be easy. It will be really hard. But we, you know, as I said, we know we can do hard work. We have done it this last year. We continue to do it. But we also, you know, need that work to be done collectively, and we need leaders to lead. So not to minimize what's at stake, but I am optimistic that we are coming to terms with what's really at stake. And that's, you know, again, the planet will be here. She might be ready to kick us out. She clearly is. She's telling us so much. But that there are things that we can do. We don't have to invent something new, that we can slow down our climate crisis. And then how quickly our planet can heal, scientists can't tell us that. And we've seen in the last year that she can come back in ways mysterious and amazing. And so I also have faith there that if we give our planet a chance to heal, she can heal, you know, enough that we can not just survive, that we will make it through. There will be hardships, there are difficult times, but I truly feel that.
Good. Thank you so much. Okay, Kay Furlani, I believe, has her hand up. So Kay, I'll let you speak on your own if you would.
Okay, yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all righty. Well, what I'm wondering is if you could say something about the role that the collective action that has to happen, you know, that we as individuals, there are a good number of things that we could do, but the collective kind of action that has to happen to really have a bigger impact on the things that need to change. So if you could maybe say something more, you know, to that. and
Sure.
how we as individuals might even be able to take action to encourage that collective action, for example, on the part of corporations and on the part of the government.
Absolutely. Well, we just saw it in action, right? We saw what happened in Georgia when young people registered people to vote, where we saw our democracy really just about breaking. And we have to ensure that everyone's vote is counted and heard. And, so I think, that collective about not losing faith in our systems and making sure that recognizing their fragility, but that we can support them. I think the power of seeing, and we can't do this now in COVID, but of seeing hundreds, thousands of people in the streets makes a huge difference. However, I've also heard, from our Congress people here in New Jersey, in New York, that if they get 10 calls to their offices, that's a huge 10. Then they're talking, the staff is talking to the congressperson about it. That's not a lot. So collectively we can come together in small groups to actually make our voices heard. And so there are many, from that first Earth Day, where 20 million people in our country without cell phones, without the internet, found their way in cities to march and show they cared about our planet and what we were doing to it. To the 400,000 people on that first climate march in 2014 that pushed our governments forward with the Paris Agreement. Those kind of things can be very powerful, but as can be, running for office and pulling a team together or supporting someone that is, or if it's a corporation, I worked with 3 moms, one from Connecticut, from New Jersey, and one from New York, about 7 or 8 years ago, on educating to try to get signatories on a petition about palm oil, the damage that it was doing in Indonesia and Malaysia, and the connection to snack foods that our children are eating. And we actually, with the help of other organizations, got over 100,000 signatures. We took it to PepsiCo. We were targeting PepsiCo because it has all these brands, Quaker Oats. It was at that time run by a woman CEO, Indra Nui. And while we didn't meet with her, we met with her senior staff. It didn't quite have the impact we wanted, but they slowly have become, an industry leader as opposed to an industry laggard. In our region, as it has to do with water, in protecting the Delaware River from fracking, right? It took us 10 years. Many in this room, I think, probably were part of the, back and back and back again to the meetings of the Delaware River Basin Commission to study what was happening, to, not open up this amazing watershed that over 8 million people rely on. And finally that happened. And it was a lot of hard work by the collective, but by individuals that came together, and that drove people to meetings and met people at trains and came together. And so, and then doing fun things. I have some fun stories with Rachel where we were in Trenton and did some very silly, not silly, they had a serious purpose, but we dressed up. We gave out funny awards to politicians that weren't doing things, and we had fun at a very serious time. So it can be also fun to be together, and this is our life, we're living it, and yet all these things are happening to our planet. But that collective role of all of us is coming together to do something. And I think Waterspirit has some opportunities there to come together as a collective, and it actually makes a difference. And so I think that thank you for asking that question, and I hope that gives some examples and answers some. Thanks, Kay.
Thank you again, Harriet. think one last question, if it's okay.
Yes.
Bob wants to know, and I think this fits nicely with the question that Kay asked as well, and your answer to her. What do you feel to be an impactful approach to convincing policymakers of the realities of not addressing climate change?
Yeah, great question, Bob, because it's so easy as an elected official who relies on, well, I think I'll talk about those elected officials because the policymakers might be the staff folks, and I think they maybe get it and they need to write it more directly. But it's easy to kick the can down the road, right? To set that 2050 target because that elected official isn't going to be, they'll be long gone out of office by then. And so we need near-term targets. But there are so many studies and reports out now. I mean, again, trusting in the science, trusting in the work that's there that says if we don't act, right, the cost to if that policymaker works for a town, the cost of not addressing the climate crisis, you can only build, put so much sand in dunes on your shore community. And actually in many places in Florida where they've been pulling that sand from out in the ocean onto the beach, there's no more sand to pull. They're getting it from the Bahamas, or they're actually now, many of the beaches in Florida are made out of ground up glass. They're not, which is what silica, which sand is, but it isn't actually from nature. It's made from crushed bottles, So, so the cost of inaction is so high that it may seem like it costs something, it's very expensive to do it now. You look at the cost of solar panels, which have come down so dramatically that once you have them, then the power is free, right? So I think that the policymakers, they get it. We just have to push them. And if they don't, then we can provide them with that material. Hugh talked about the banning the oil train coalition. And I remember going with Paula Rogovan, who's an amazing activist from Bergen County, and another colleague and friend, and we went to visit our congressperson, and we brought him all of these documents about the explosions that had happened in Canada, the rickety tracks that exist in Bergen County, and we provided that material. And you can't deny, that's if they want to ignore it, but we can bring them that and then have the media amplify it. And, we saw how it worked.
Well, thank you again so much, Harriet, and congratulations. And one more time, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'd like to turn things over now to our good friend Abby Koshak, who will take us through the next part of our program. Thank you all, everybody.
Thank you, Hugh, and thank you, Harriet. This has been a lot of fun connecting with each other. Now we are going to give everyone a chance to get to know each other a little bit better. And we are going to break off from this main session into breakout rooms for about 10 minutes or so. And if you're unfamiliar with breakout rooms in Zoom, these are sessions that split off from this main event, and they allow you to just meet other members in smaller groups and connect with each other. So the group that you get assigned to is totally random, and you'll see an invite to join your breakout group in just a second on your screen. And if anyone is having trouble joining a breakout room, please let me know. We have a few discussion questions to get the ball rolling once you're in your groups, and I'll read them aloud, and I'll also put them in the chat for you guys. So the first question we have is, how long have you been involved in Waterspirit's activities? The second question is, share a favorite Waterspirit memory. Another question is, what body of water do you treasure? And the last one is, what did you find interesting or surprising about Harriet's presentation? And these are just jumping off points. Feel free to discuss whatever topics come up in your groups. And give me 1 second while I set those up for us. All right. So you should see an invite to join a breakout room, and just click join that room, and about 10 minutes to the hour, we'll come back together.
Well, I hope that everyone had a chance to get to know your fellow members of the Waterspirit community a little bit more. I hope you had some great discussions in your breakout rooms. I know that I always have fascinating discussions whenever I talk to any of you, especially about these things that mean so much to us, you know, caring for creation and protecting our waters. As we move into the close of the evening, I've got a few final remarks before we welcome Father Ed Cuba to share our closing prayer. I do want to remind everybody that if you take a look at our silent auction, again, which is open until midnight tomorrow, you still got time to bid, you will have the opportunity to bid on multiple copies of How to Talk to Your Kids About Climate Change. And these copies that are in our auction are particularly special because Harriet has been so kind as to sign them with the special joys of the same message as well. So these are really one-of-a-kind items now that you can make your own, give to everybody that you know who has kids in their lives. You can use these tips about telling the truth, about acting, since our actions speak louder than words, and not being afraid as we move forward into this future together. And more on our auction site as well. On that site, you also have the option of making an additional donation to Waterspirit if you would like, which goes to support all of our programming and advocacy efforts. Our Waterspirit website also has our donation link, so either way, there's plenty of opportunities to give and to support this work as we move together into the future. Oh, my heart is so full having spent the evening with you all. So, you know, once again, thank you so much for, you know, waves of gratitude, just waves and waves and waves for the insight of our Suzanne Golas Award recipient, Harriet Sugarman. Big waves of gratitude to everybody on Joys of the Sea Planning Committee. Huge thanks to our sponsors, again, Anne-Marie and Bob Reardon, Father Ed Cuba, Michael Urio, and Bagel Station in Red Bank. Thank you to the Waterspirit staff, and thank you to all of the community members who are here tonight. Before we wrap up and turn it over to Father Ed with our closing prayer, we would like to get a photo of everybody who is here in the room. So all you have to do is smile nice in your Zoom box, and our program manager, Abby Kochak, is going to take care of taking the picture, and she'll let us know when she's taking it. So everybody smile, say cheese.
All right, you guys all look great. Okay. And on 3, say Waterspirit. 1, 2, 3.
Waterspirit.
Perfect. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Abby. And now I will turn things over to longtime board member, Father Edward J. Cuba, who is a longtime environmental advocate and faith and ecology advocate as well. His book is also available on our website if you and a group of friends are looking for a small group resource to study Pope Francis's encyclical Laudato Si. So be sure to check that out as well. And with that, I turn the floor over to Father Ed.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you for a job exceptionally well done. I think all of us would agree to that, and in a very special way, Harriet. What you said and the way you said it was beautiful and profound. It touched me, touched all of us, I'm sure. And so we close with a prayer for a universal heart. O God of all creation, we are formed in your image and born of your love. Teach us to live as a part of the one web of life, which you hold all things. Teach us to reverence the sustaining systems through which you move all things in unity. Teach us to live in harmony with your laws for our planet and your compassion for all creation. Give us the patience to trust your creative chaos Give us the humility to see our needs and desires in the perspective of the needs of all people. Give us the wideness of heart to cherish the earth and all her creatures as you do. Deepen our understanding of the immensity of your love for each of us and for each creature in our universe. We pray for these things so that our world may be healed, so that we as citizens of this nation may come to respect, to speak honestly to one another, and that all people come to live in love and peace as you desire. Amen.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Well done, everybody.